So anybody that's been watching the show for any length of time knows I love wine. I love food and wine together. We were at the Beaujolais harvest in 2005. We were at Albarino for the harvest in 2010. We did wine shows in Portugal, in Sicily, in Bordeaux years ago. And I love champagne. I adore it. So I've always wanted to do a show on champagne. There's a couple of ways you could do that. You can hop around, visit different producers, visit Chateau, taste, or you can just pick one and bore down deep. And I think that's what we're going to do. Who did I pick? Laurent Perrier. They're one of the big major houses, big major players in the US and France and Britain, and they're not part of LVMH. I like that. They're privately owned. One family, the Nanoncorns, had them for a long time. They're a great story. We're going to spend a few days with them in Champagne. Meet the winemaker, meet the staff, walk the vineyards, pair it with foods. Of course, you can visit some great restaurants along the way. So, Champagne 101 for the next 26 minutes, and a lot of good food with it too. I'm Mike Colameco, industry insider. Been in the business my whole life, and I know what it takes to succeed. Each week we'll take you into real kitchens, filmed in real time. Backstage passes to a day in the life of chefs, restaurateurs, and their teams. The competition's fierce. Careers, life savings, and reputations hang in the balance. These are my people, and this is their passion. And that's what's next on Mike Colameco's Real Food. Mike Colameco's Real Food is brought to you by the continuous, generous support of the following underwriters.
Extra virgin olive oil from Colavita, an Italian family brand.
Rachel Ray's signature specialty food line, designed for preparing meals at home.
Bingo. Like nowhere else in the world of wine, making consistent champagne year after year is the art of blending. In any single bottle of Brut non-vintage, which is 80% of the market, you may have juice from dozens, if not hundreds of different vineyards and multiple vintages all combined. The weather here is notoriously difficult. In a good year, the entire region can produce 300 million bottles. In a bad year, that can drop to less than half. Styles vary between houses, but more than anything else, what defines the nuanced flavor of champagne is the time spent aging on lees in those miles of chalk cellars. And to my mind, the longer on lees, the better. So here's Nicole, the brand ambassador for Laurent Perrier. In 6.5 miles of caves you have?
Yes.
And it's cold, and it's damp, and it's
12 degrees Celsius.
And this is where everything stays in storage.
Yes, but it's not controlled. It's a not natural temperature. We have no air conditioning and no central heating, nothing.
How far below ground are we?
About 13 meters.
That's pretty deep. And how old are the oldest parts of these caves?
204 years.
Dug out of straight limestone,
Yes.
just carved out of limestone.
They started with 800 meters and now we're 10.5 kilometers.
All right, the gentleman has been with you for how many years?
38.
And his job is specifically what?
When we bottle the wines, we add some yeast and 24 grams of sugar that will give us at the end of the process 6 kilos pressure. And when the wines are ready to be consumed, we have to get rid of this sediment. He'll see how the yeast is in the bottle and he will decide whether he's going to turn 1/8 to the right or to the left. Here you have 6,000 bottles. He turns 10 times what you see here. 60,000 bottles a day.
So we talk about how much work it is to make champagne. I mean, this is just such a special place where we are, how hard it is to get the grapes to ripen. It's all hand harvest, the last harvest that takes place in France, then hand selection.
Yes.
Then you have to make the still wine, and then we get to this point, and it's still the hands of a human.
Yes.
Every day on the bottles, all day long.
Yes.
Wow, what am I looking at? Nicole, tell me about these bottles.
These are Jeroboams. They are double magnums, 2 magnums, 3 liters. And Bernard always said that the magnum is the right size for 2 when the other one doesn't drink. So this is the right size for 2, both can drink. This This is the sediment. We add yeast and sugar.
Right.
And the yeast absorbs the sugar, and this is how the bubbles arrive naturally inside the bottle. So we are bringing all this sediment into what we call un bidule. And then we will put the neck of the bottle in brine at minus 25 degrees for 10 minutes, and there's an ice cube formed inside the neck. We open the bottle, which we call the dégorgement. With a 6 kilos pressure, this ice cube pops out. And this is where you add the dosage or expedition liqueur, which at Laurent Perrier is produced with the same wine. We don't use old wines or anything, we just take the same wine where we add a little sugar, and then we put the cork, the wire, and that's it. The bottle goes back to the cellars for another 4 or 5 months, and before they are shipped, the bottles have to be dressed up. We don't label bottles in champagne, we dress them up.
So this is the new part of the winery. We've seen a lot of old, gorgeous, dank, moldy cellars, but there's new technology here too, right? So this is gorgeous, state-of-the-art, stainless steel, refrigerated, perfect. There's 80 of these tanks in this room and the room behind me, and they each hold 37,500 liters of wine. Yeah, so I can't really do the math, but that's a lot of bottles. We'll figure out how many bottles they have in here, but this is astonishing. And they've got even bigger format stainless steel tanks for the final blend back there somewhere, but it's just crazy. It's crazy. This is like modern winemaking, that they can do this much wine on this scale, consistent year after year after year. But at the end of the day, when you think about it, it kind of explains how they do it. Champagne.
Bravo.
And nearly every house has a prestige or tête cuvée these days. These are only made during the most exceptional vintage years when the growing conditions are perfect, and then they're allowed to age for extended periods of time, 6, 7, 8 years or longer on lees. Some of the most famous examples of these are Louis Rodier's Cristal, created in 1878, and Moet Chandon's Dame Perignon, dating back to 1928. Today, we'll taste Laurent Perrier's Grand Siècle with the cellar master. This is going to be a real treat.
La cuvée Grand Siècle, c'est la cuvée de prestige. Chaque maison.
So every house has a prestige cuvée, and while most houses have a single vintage prestige cuvée, at Laurent Perrier we do a multi-vintage prestige cuvée, not just to be contrarian, but because again we want to have the whole that's greater than the sum of its parts, picking the best of the best of the best and putting them together. You know, of course, the first thing that you're looking at is you want to see the fineness of the mousse,
right.
The bubbles or the mousse.
Right.
And then, of course, you look at the color. And you can tell that the wine is very young because it has a pale gold note.
So we're in one of the great old champagne houses, Laurent Perrier, in the region. And again, it's one of the great big brands, but it's not a corporate brand, it's a family-owned brand. And his story is a great story. I'd love just to hear how he started and kind of that arc from those humble days to today as cellar master.
L'histoire de ma vie, c'est Laurent Perrier.
So we started with Laurent Perrier in 1973. He started as an intern. So it was supposed to be 3 months, and it ended up being his entire life.
Walk me through Champagne 101.
Comment est-ce qu'on fait le champagne? Les étapes d'élaboration du champagne.
Le champagne, c'est la succession de 2 fermentations alcooliques.
So there's 2 steps in making champagne. One is making the first fermentation, which occurs here in these tanks, and then the second fermentation, which occurs in the bottles.
So we talked about the assemblage, about how there's like 400 crayons in the box to play with, and it ends up as champagne. But we didn't talk about one of the characteristics of this part of France, and now these days so germane to winemaking, which is terroir. What is this chalky soil like? Because this is really unique to hear a stretch of geological phenomenon.
Right.
La craie qu'on a en Champagne, il y a déjà une profondeur de craie.
So there's 30 to 40 meters of chalk, right? So the roots of our vines are going, there's 30 or 40 meters down. And what they're giving to the wines as a result is really a lot of minerality. That's like a true characteristic of Champagne.
So we've established we have this chalky soil. Then we have this place in France. It's the northernmost place you can even grow grapes. Beyond this, it's impossible. It's cold, it's tough, ripeness is tough. What does the Van Clair end up tasting like?
So our wines, because of this climatic and this typicity that we get in the base wines in Champagne, you're going to have wines that have high acid and low pH. As Michel mentioned, there's not a lot of sun, so getting them ripe is a difficult thing. So you also have to select varietals that are going to be well adapted to the region and that are going to ripen fast. So we have 3 core varietals in Champagne: Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier. Those are varietals that will work well in this type of climate.
Chef, can we taste some Van Clair?
Est-ce qu'on peut goûter un vin clair, s'il vous plaît? Génial.
So this is
Alors,
Chardonnay. We talk about blind tasting all the time. So
Yeah.
this is almost kind of a signature young, unoaked Chardonnay.
Absolutely.
It's got this floral
Yeah.
notes to it. It's young.
And of course, the first step in making a good champagne is making a great base wine, a great vin clair. And because 2015 had a lot of sunshine, a long growing season, we're getting even the base wine that is really approachable now, even being so young.
He loves this.
With this vintage,
Yeah.
yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah. And this varietal and this particular crew in
Yeah,
that year, it's really
it's really
doing very
drinkable
well.
now. It's
Yeah,
delicious.
yeah.
It's just going to undergo this transformation to make it even super and more magic in this method champenoise. But I mean, this is way better than I thought it was going to be. Thank you, chef. How often do you get to taste vin clair before it becomes champagne?
And not very often,
Not very
actually.
often.
No. You know, it's quite a treat.
So among the challenges of buying champagne, sorting champagne, decoding the label of champagne is opening champagne. Demo, please.
Of course, the first thing you want to do is find the pull tab.
Right, there's a
Take
pull
off the
tab on
foil.
all these things, right?
Yep, so that's going to come right off.
Bingo.
Put your thumb over it.
You should always
pull
cover
down
the
the
cork
tab.
because there's
Absolutely.
a possibility it's going to go.
Right.
Okay.
So when the cage is off, the cork could go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Voila.
Bingo. I know.
Loosen up the cage.
Okay.
Now, here's the part where you got to be a little fast, right? It's easiest to just take the cage off, put your thumb right there. Now, here's the part that people don't know.
Okay. I used to box,
Don't
so
do
this
this
shouldn't
at
be too
home,
bad.
kids.
But
You have much more control of the cork if you're holding the cork with one hand
Right.
and you twist the bottle.
Okay.
So keep the cork where it is, go really slowly, and you want a little hiss. Like that. Et voilà. There you go.
sound
So,
effect. Was that a special effect or was that the actual hiss?
That was the
added in
actual hiss. That was
post-production or was
perfect.
that the hiss? Was that
I
the
guarantee,
hiss?
I heard it.
All right, I heard it
perfect.
too. That was the hiss.
perfect. Pour it very gently, so that way the mousse isn't going to get to be too overwhelming. So we're just enjoying it in a casual flute, very typical of a French bistro.
Can I just say something?
Yes, sir.
This isn't a bistro. This is like a bar
No,
tobacco.
you're right. It's a bar tobacco.
This is a
You're
bar
right.
tobacco.
You're right.
I mean, you go
It's
in
a
here,
bar
it
tobacco.
smells
That's
like
a better word.
cigarettes. It's 11 in the morning, and it's full of pensioners who apparently pass most of their day hanging out at said bar tobacco, buying lotto tickets, talking politics, and drinking champagne.
Sounds like a pretty good life to me, right?
This little place sells how many bottles of your champagne a year?
Over 2,000.
It's crazy.
2,000.
Salute.
Cheers to that.
Good morning. Oh no, eye contact. Shoot, do that again, eye contact.
Oh,
Sorry,
cheers.
it's 11 a.m., man. I'm not on point. So we're sitting across the street looking at this Bruno Urbain, this guy's store, and he's a Milieu Ouvrier de France, MOF for short, which is a real honor. The French government gives us out every couple of years to artisans. Could be chefs, could be pastry chefs, could be carpenters, could be musicians. It's craftsmen. This is a real. I'm not going to come in here and see this place. And here you have this like great corner store with. They've got this poulet de Bresse in the corner. Look at the skin in that. I mean, you know that's going to taste delicious. Then some kind of pork tenderloin, and that looks like merguez sausage and his own sausage. And if you lived around here, you'd eat these gorgeous pâté, different types of hands in the back that they're going to hand cut. These saucissons up here, I could smell these. They smell great. Great little selection. It's one of the great things about French culture. They eat really well. Thierry Breton, I think is his name. You know, forget supermarkets. They've got this beautiful selection of meat. So you've got limousine as a type of beef. You know, like we have Angus, they have limousine beef. Bouchette Brésillion La Pince, so it's some kind of rabbit. Back there again, you see how lean the meat is here because this is not corn-finished meat. Like basically all the meat in Europe is grass-fed, pasture-raised. So you can just see how lean that is. Again, all the chickens here are free-range, and they're not cheap. This is 17.20 euro. $20 a kilo for thighs and drumsticks, but they don't eat as much meat as we do. A little duck, you can tell by the yellow skin on that side. These little roasts, papillote de veau, so he's got it wrapped in fat, tongue, kidney, liver. Just grinds it to order. Got a little grinder to order. House Laurent Perrier was purchased by Marie-Louise de Nanoncourt in 1939. During World War II, her two sons, Maurice and Bernard, joined the French resistance, but Maurice was captured and perished in a concentration camp. In 1945, Bernard began his apprenticeship in the cellars. At this point, Laurent Perrier was a very small house, ranked in the low hundreds in overall production. Over the course of his lifetime, Bernard built the brand and the fresh style to where it is today, ranked consistently in the top 10 houses globally, the largest independent champagne group, and run by his two daughters, Alexandra and Stephanie. Within the AOC of Champagne, there's several ways to make rosé. How can you make them? What are those methods?
En Champagne, il y a deux façons de...
So there are two ways of making rosé champagne in Champagne that are legal, right? So one way is that you can actually add still red wine that you've made on the side into the wine before the secondary fermentation. That's a bit like adding food coloring. So the way that we actually do it is that we choose the ripest Pinot Noir grapes, we put them into the vats, and we let them macerate for about 48 to 72 hours. And maceration is basically letting the skins remain, exactly, skin contact.
Does he sleep during those 3 days?
Est-ce que vous dormez ces jours-là pendant
Je
72 heures?
Je dors jamais. Quand on est en vendange.
Generally speaking, during the harvest, he just doesn't sleep. It's just not even worth it.
Valerie Marchandise, chef, mon chef.
Bonjour.
Tu vas bien?
Chef.
Va bien.
Ça va bien, merci.
So Valerie is the personal chef for Laurent Perrier. So we're going to start with this beautiful braised boneless lamb shoulder with aromatics, and I already kind of see what the aromatics are. Deboned shoulder, and she's got this beautiful cruisette kind of thing going on. Always salt.
Sel.
Yep.
On débarrasse l'épaule.
Take the shoulder out of the pot.
Bon. Don't waste anything. We got some oil that has flavor. A little olive oil.
On fait torréfier les épices.
So this is a mix of coriander, green pepper. It's crazy. Coriander, green pepper, vanilla, star anise, and cumin.
Yeah.
She's toasting them off, and then in go the
Poivron rouge,
red pepper,
carottes,
carrot, onion,
onions et
Garlic.
ail frais.
right, fresh garlic. And this is the honey. We saw the beehives up in the field, so this is their local honey. I tasted some of this honey. It's super, super delicious. In goes the shoulder, boneless side. Seulement légumes? Seulement légumes. Are there any mushrooms in this?
Are there any, est-ce qu'il y a des champignons là-dedans?
Non.
No, just
Que
lamb.
légumes.
Lamb and legumes.
Agneau et oignon.
It's funny.
Lamb and onions, that's it. Not only is she the chef, she has to cook all of the food, she is also in charge of the entire domaine. She's in charge of the chateau. So the gardeners, the flowers, everything. This is Valerie's
She's the general.
domaine.
Les
Yes.
pompiers la nuit.
Yes, exactly. When the firemen come at night to pump out the moat, she is in charge of the moat as well, in addition to everything else. Bon.
So you'll notice what she did is she covered this with parchment paper, and she put a little hole in the parchment paper to create a chimney. So we're not getting any color on the top, even though she had a lid, so it was kind of like wearing a belt and suspenders. Lid plus the parchment, and then you can see it's a little bit of lamb fat on the top. 5 hours, it's like butter.
So it's both a confit and braised. It's like couscous mixed with butter and egg. It's North African.
Quenelle.
Yeah.
Voilà.
Merci.
So it's Wednesday morning, it's early, and every town in France, especially the bigger cities, have a layout. They have an open market where it fills up every day. They've got stalls of everything, fish, meat, vegetables, cheese, bread, you name it. So we came today to layout to see what's going on. And it's a Wednesday, there's nothing going on. There's a cheesemonger over there and a vegetable monger back there, and basically it's empty stalls. Like, that's it. Okay, across the street, we got in luck. There's a little tiny market, Les Bocal. We're gonna figure out what that means. I'm not sure, I think it means the fish tank or something like that. But it's a fish market, and it's a restaurant in the back, so you can pick your fish, they cook the fish, you go in the back, you eat the fresh cooked fish. The chef's a great chef. I know who the partner is because she cooked for us last night. But anyway, let's go over there, see what kind of seafood they have, maybe have some oysters. It's a little early for champagne, but you never know. Across the street, we'll try and resurrect this thing. So this is like day 4, and every night we've been kind of out to dinner, and I love those plats de mer, those seafood platters, right, where they're set on ice, they're huge. We have them in New York City too, just piles of all the seafood you can want, and man, I can never get enough of those. Over here they've got these little things, we call them sneeze-snails. Pull that little piece of membrane off, they give you a long fork, and boop, it pops out. Those are so delicious. I'm guessing those are from Alaska, that would be my guess. We have these beautiful, giant, that's a big boy, these langoustine. I know we've had these crabs a couple nights in a row. Gorgeous meat inside. Man, they're good. And these claws, forget about it. These guys I love mackerel, delicious oily fish. Now we can get into some of the farm-raised stuff. Salmon's farm-raised, Dorade Royale, I'm guessing 99% that these are gonna be farm-raised as well, which is fine. You know, that's how we're gonna have to eat fish these days. And this guy, we actually see these on the Atlantic coast sometime. It's got that thumbprint there, it's called Saint-Pierre, and that's because of that. Not a lot of yield on this fish, it's mostly head, but that's one of my favorite fish to eat in the world. This is kind of crazy, these little sole. Like in America, I don't think they'd let you catch fish this small, but they catch them here. But these are the stars of the show in a way. I don't know 100%, but I'm going to guess that no one eats more oysters per capita than the French. They love oysters. And kind of everywhere you go in the French cities, there's places with these oyster displays. So let's open some oysters and talk about oysters and wine pairing. You know, that might be a plan for breakfast. You guys love your oysters.
We do, yeah, we do. And we love trying them from different areas.
Yep.
So it gives us different
terroir
and different order to taste them.
Tell me about this space. I mean, it looks just like a retail store.
And
you don't know that if you go up the steps into the back, you've got this beautiful dining room with windows and...
It started as a sort of a secret place to be known by only the
locals,
yeah, from the store. So quite fresh. And,
right.
And then you go and eat it in the back. That's
I want this, I want this. I don't feel like cooking it at home. You cook it for me.
You cook
I
it.
pick a bottle of wine and dinner's made.
That's it.
Bingo.
It's so elegant. Possibly is my favorite champagne to go with oysters.
It's hard to argue. Hard to argue with that.
It has.
That's good. I'm going for a round 2.
Go.
When was the Grand Cru established? By whom and what were the criteria?
Alors c'est arrivé, c'est assez historique.
So it was really in 1927 that the classification began, and the classification was decided upon the location, exactly where the vineyards were, what their characteristics were, and they were different for the Chardonnay and for the Pinot Noir.
What percentage of the vines do you own versus what percentage are you partnering with local vignerons that own small parcels?
So we have some long-term grape growing contracts with 90% of the 90% of our needs come from these grape growing contracts. The vineyards that we own represent 10% of our needs. But I think something that's very important to communicate is that 90%, those are long-term relationships where it's really us who's working with them, saying here's how we want these grapes to be grown. Here are the conditions. Here are the quality indicators. It's not like buying grapes on the stock market.
What would a hectare cost me today?
It's going to be 1.2 to 1.4 million euros per hectare if you can even figure out a way to get one, given the difficulty and the scarcity that actually exists now.
So if I win like $500 million, maybe I should just drink champagne?
I think that's the best idea. Drink a lot of champagne with that.
And
yes.
forget farming and
leave it to the experts.
About it. Okay.
Yeah. We have between 1,500 and 1,600 grape growers that are supplying us with our needs.
Right. So these are just small farmers?
Yeah, they're small. 280,000 individual parcels on average.
In all of Champagne?
In all of Champagne. We're looking at most of those are well under a hectare. A grape grower can decide who they want to sell their grapes to, so they wouldn't have to work with Laurent Perrier, but these are relationships that we've had and developed and maintained over multiple generations. Some of them have even bought shares in the house.
All right.
So we're all in this together.
Alors, so we just found out, it's 2016, and we just had this picture on your iPhone. It's the end of May into June. It was May when it happened. There was tremendous hail in Beaujolais. How far into the season do you get hail here in Champagne? Is it possible?
Je dirais qu'à l'heure actuelle.
So there are 3 really dangerous times. We can have a winter freeze, which can be really bad. They also call it the black freeze. And then you've got the springtime freezes. You've got the things that are just starting to grow on the vine, and they can be killed by the cold weather, by the freeze. But then all the way through July, we actually have an issue of fearing hail. You've got a terrible summer storm, and at that point the hail can come in and it'll be knocking off your grapes. It can cause a lot of damage even to the arm of the vine itself.
So I'm pretty much decided I'm just going to drink champagne and not grow it. I've decided that I'm going to let you do what you do, and I'll do what I'll do. And what little I can buy and enjoy, thank you for your efforts. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Next to me.
Thank you. Interval training, let's go. The hard 100, let's go. High knees. He's a star, baby. Really beautiful champagne style like Burgundy. You see that shell? Beautifully round. It's not pointy like those damn Asian snails everyone eats. The acatine, this is the real deal right here. You got happy, a little confused here. Don't think about garlic, butter, and parsley. No. Ah! Didn't like that.
Hey, did you hear that?
Escargot on the menu.
Ça marche, 4 couverts, on a 3 foie gras à rien à suivre, 3 côtes de veau à point, un homard.
The most famous restaurant in the region has always been Les Crayeres, and the chef these days is Philippe Mille, who took over the kitchen after it had lost all 3 of its Michelin stars. It's now back to 2-star status. thanks for having us tonight, first of all.
Thank you.
And congratulations, 2 Michelin stars.
Yeah.
It's huge. Are you pushing for 3?
Yeah, we want.
Everyone is, right?
Yeah, we want. Yeah.
Many.
Oh, the team wants that. Yeah.
And the team is great. I mean, they're mostly French, some Italian from all over.
Yeah.
Mostly French guys. So we're good.
Yeah, everybody is different, so we must have an identity cooking about the champagne. We are ambassador of the champagne here. White asparagus inside.
So to cook the white asparagus, you're making, so it's flour, salt, egg white?
Salt, flour.
They started here on the plancha.
Yeah, before in the plancha.
Then in the fire.
In the fire, and result.
And just to concentrate the flavor of the asparagus.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. I knew I should have ordered that. Twiddle of buckwheat?
On va faire d'abord 4 amuses à la 29, s'il vous plaît.
Hell yeah. I think I ordered that. Top of peas. Take a look at these vegetables to shoot. These brought them out for us. So all from the garden.
Yeah. Very nice.
That's beautiful. How nice. Every day fresh, every day fresh.
They come from the garden every morning. I worked in Paris before.
Yeah, for years.
Yeah.
De Maurice.
The Maurice,
The Ritz, right.
La Serre,
Right.
Précathlon.
3 stars, 2 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars. Great restaurants.
Yeah, the same. But the gas is very different here. So we must do a cooking very different, a style, a vegetable very different. So many things different here.
And how old are you? If you know, you're a young guy. Are you 35, 36?
37.
37. I'm close. For once I got it right.
Et on part à la 24. Parti devant 2 caviar au menu.
3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you. So please remember, folks, champagne works really well with lots of food, so don't just drink it as a toast before meals. Try pairing it with dinner, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. My Colameco's Real Food is brought to you by the continuous, generous support of the following underwriters.
Extra virgin olive oil from Colameco, an Italian family brand.
Rachael Ray's signature specialty food line, designed for preparing meals at home.